Episode 5, take 2. Accidentally left my door open. That would have been pretty embarrassing. What's more embarrassing than your sister walking in on you recording a podcast? I think that's as bad as it gets. I think sex would be less embarrassing than having someone walk in on you talking about whales, how smart whales are. But yeah, things that went on this week, nothing much. I feel like today is the first official day of fall. It might be the first technical day, but I mean in terms of weather, like here in Minnesota, it's very cool this morning, like 50s. So it's the type of fall where you wear a hoodie in the morning. First day of fall. Yeah. So I guess technically it is the first day of fall. And I guess the weather knew that, or at least up here in Minnesota, because yeah, it was chilly this morning, and I don't have AC, so I woke up fucking frigid, nose clogged as hell, throat dry as a motherfucker. So that's how my day started. Ate some oatmeal, listened to some Tim Dillon to get the gears turning in my mind. But as you can tell, it didn't have that fucking much of an effect. I'm still stumbling over my words, saying retarded shit, but we're here. Yeah, that's all I got for today. I don't know. Next week, I'm thinking of doing one of two things. We're either doing like the Celts, just in general, history of the Celts, Druids, all that fun shit, or doing like Eskimos and Inuits and all that stuff, like people of the North. So I don't know. If the one person listening to this has any preference, text me, I guess. And if anyone is listening to this that doesn't have my Snap, there's comments on, but I doubt anyone's listening to this. That's not him. And furthermore, I don't believe anyone listening to this has made it this far. That isn't my boy. So, by the way, I'm gonna try my fucking hardest to get the music in. But last week, dude, I tried to upload the fucking podcast up like 4 or 5 times, and then I just tried it without the music and it uploaded, which I don't get. The music's royalty free. I made sure of that. By the way, we have a fucking, I want to call this a class, but we have a class pet now. And we have had for a few weeks. It's a huge fucking fly, dude. I don't know what this thing's eating. I don't know how it's still alive. It's been like a month and a half since I moved in here. And he's just flying around. And he's slow as shit. And I can't get him. So that's our class pet, is a fly. And flies are pretty dumb, but you know what's smart? Whales and dolphins, cetaceans. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. This episode is probably going to be a shorter one. I only have like 3 pages of notes, but it's sciencey, so I'll probably be explaining a lot of stuff poorly. So it'll probably be the same episode length as everything else. But yeah, I think we'll just get right into it. Cetacean intelligence. Cetacean, if you don't know, dolphins and whales. They're known for being smart, and I think the current episode title is "Did Avatar 2 Lie to Me?" Because that's kind of where I feel like we all know people talk about how smart whales and dolphins are, but I saw Avatar 2 and I was like, these guys might be smarter than we think, which is that's just such a dumb stoner thought. Which I don't smoke weed, or I'm not smoking weed right now. I haven't in like a few months, but back when I saw Avatar 2, dude, we weren't in the peak, but it was up there. I was smoking a lot of gas station weed. And so, yeah, I was like, dude, whales are so much smarter than we think, dude. Which, I mean, they are. They are pretty fucking smart. But it's just funny. And I feel like doing this type of research turns you into a stoner. Just having to think about all this shit. It's like I played Minecraft for like fucking like 16 hours this past week. And I feel like that's like a stoner thing to do, which is exactly what this research is. Like, whales are so smart. But anyway, so we're going to get started. First, we're going to talk about their brains / brain size. Many believe it's a determining factor in intelligence. Brain to body mass ratio is considered pretty important, but it's not like perfect. For example, humans, which are the smartest animals, we are, dude. Everyone else can suck our dicks. Our ratio is 2.1%, but then I think it's called like a tree shrew. It's some type of shrew. If you know what a shrew is, it's like a mouse that eats bugs. And there's this 10%. And then whales and dolphins average about 0.9% at the lowest to like 1.5%. So it isn't the best way to measure due to like the size of things. Like smaller things are always going to have like a relatively larger brains. For some, I can't fucking. It's like some math. All right, just trust me on this one. The Poindexters figured this one out for us. So, but anyway, and whales and dolphins also have a lot of insulating blubber in their heads, I guess, which I guess makes sense. Your brain, you don't want your brain to get cold. And also they use it for like echolocation and stuff. And also ratios of different parts of the brain. Because whales and dolphins kind of live in a 3D environment, like we don't really live in a 3D environment. We move forwards, backwards, and side to side, which is 2D. Like we're not going up and down the same way whales and dolphins are like birds are. Right? So like I forget, I think it's the amygdala. This is all fucking biology I learned a year ago, so I could be wrong. Maybe I should have done some research on it or freshened up. But anyway, whatever part of the brain controls like motor function and like perspective and stuff, it's a lot more developed in the brains of whales and dolphins and birds because they live in a 3D environment. Which is why like humans get like motion sick, I guess, from like flying in planes and stuff. But anyway, so since that doesn't work, they use something called encephalization quotient. It varies and it seems pretty unreliable too. It doesn't seem like not unreliable, like it's not consistent. It just doesn't seem like the best way to measure intelligence. But I mean, I'll look up. I think humans have the highest. I think ours is around 10. Yeah, and theirs is around 5.3. Oh, humans is only 7.4. So, and that scale might be biased because we can't, like, we know brain size doesn't equal intelligence, and your brain really doesn't have a lot to do with it. So I don't know why we can't just admit some animals just got bigger brains than us. But what is kind of a more reliable way is like these things called spindle cells, which are important for intelligence, and I don't think it's found in all these all the cetaceans. So there are definitely some that are a lot smarter than others, but yeah. So they're important for intelligence. Research has found them in apes, humans, elephants, humpback fins, sperm and killer whales, as well as bottlenose and Risso's dolphins, and belugas. So that's what it seems like. I don't. That could be. I'm gonna actually double check that because there's no way. It's only those guys, right? Oh my fucking god. These guys in the cookies, I don't care. You already have all my information. It doesn't make a difference to me. What There we go. Okay, so it seems to be related to like how social an animal is. And that's one sentence I read, so that could be very wrong. But it seems like, and this is kind of obvious, like humans are like the most social animals, so we're the smartest. It seems like those two things are very highly related, which we'll get to later. They're not like, I don't know. Animals that are super social get smarter, but then they might become not social. You know what I mean? So anyway, a large part of whales and dolphins' brains are dedicated to echolocation. So this is like kind of why the brain to body ratio is unreliable. Because like I said, they live in a 3D environment, and like we get here, lots of echolocation going on. Which, by the way, they all use it. I didn't think like the big whales would, but bigger whales, their echolocation is better at like, because they eat krill, 1 in a trillion. But so yeah, their echolocation kind of isn't as precise, but it covers like a wider area, and so they're just able to see like these big, what's a school of krill? I don't know, masses of krill better. So they all use echolocation. Um, they evolved big brains due to echolocation and having complex social structures. This is all really to say, I don't really know. It doesn't seem like brain size or just like looking at a brain is like a perfect measurement. It gives you some idea, like with the spindle cells and stuff, and like we'll get to later because the notes were really short, so I did like a whole section about killer whales. Um, but it seems like it's kind of a decent way to get like an idea, but you have to do like more specific experiments and stuff, which is hard to do with these guys because they're so big and they live so long and stuff, and you can't really like put them in a tank. You can do that with dolphins, but not whales and shit. So anyway, we're on to the next section. Um, this section is called "How Smart Are These Guys?" Most experiments are done on dolphins. I think every experiment done in captivity is on dolphins. Even killer whales are dolphins. So, the way I said that, a little aggressive, but dolphins and whales understand numerical continuity, but not counting. But they may know numbers. So I think these guys can count. I'm about numerical continuity. I couldn't figure out what that meant. I googled it. I only googled it for like 5 minutes to be honest. This week I was so lazy with it. Um, but this is kind of one I could have been lazy with because I wasn't gonna understand it anyway, and also um, it's just so short. Even if there wasn't, I was just lazy with it. But numerical continuity, all I could find about it is like calculus and shit. And I know they're not teaching. If they don't think these guys can count, they're definitely not teaching them calculus. And also, many of these experiments of what we understand about dolphins and whales and stuff, John C. Lilly, the guy we talked about, fuck, I don't know, was that 3 episodes ago? Um, he figured out a lot of what we know about dolphins and stuff, and the way they talk to each other. So I'm pretty sure they know numbers, but it's hard to know. I mean, we can kind of talk to them. Apparently, like earlier this year, they talked to a whale, like had a back and forth conversation with it, which is sick. That might have not been true. I got that from like the Daily Mail or something. So it could very well just not be true. Um, but who knows? Which, by the way, did you guys hear about the second moon we're getting? We're getting a second moon for a few months, allegedly. I can't wait for every fucking like schizophrenic chick who believes in horoscopes and all that to blame that for why they're, I don't know, doing whatever shit schizophrenic chicks do. Every white woman with dreads is gonna blame their poor decision making on the second moon. Which, I mean, fuck it, I'm down for it. Dude, everyone blames their problems on everything else. So I don't really care if you do that. But second moon, it's gonna be sick. I don't think you're gonna be able to see it. I think it's too small. Um, but anyway, back to how smart these guys are. Maybe not great at problem solving, but it's hard to test. Yeah, I couldn't really find. We'll get into it a little later about how they problem solve, but this is also about behavior and like logic and stuff. It seems like they have logic, which is logic. I just laughed and said logic again. That made me think of the rapper and how retarded that dude is. But yeah, it seems like they're pretty smart, even though it's not super testable. It's kind of like autistic people, maybe, because like in Rain Man, the guy couldn't talk, so they didn't know how smart he was, and we can't really talk to these guys. I'm not saying autistic people are like dolphins, but you know what I mean. Um, Dolphins and whales congregate in groups ranging from 2 to 100,000 and recognize each other. And like they can like go apart and recognize each other. And by the way, the 100,000, it wasn't like a cohesive. It was, but it was kind of just a bunch of separate groups coming together, which is crazy. But it wasn't like some big. They're not chilling all the time. It was like a congregation off the coast of California, San Diego. But yeah, and the bigger whales tend to chill in smaller groups, but like sperm whales and stuff, they have decently sized groups. But like blue whales, they're traveling solo. For them, those guys are like the truckers of the sea. Like they can talk to each other long range, but they travel solo. Whether in large pods or just a pair, dolphins and whales have complex social structures. We'll talk about that more with the killer whales, but yeah, they have like patriarchies and matriarchies and like bachelor groups and stuff, which isn't like unseen in the animal kingdom, but they're very complex and they have a hierarchy and they have like they teach the other animals or the not the other animals, the younger calves, I think is what they're called, the younger animals in the group. But yeah, whales tend to travel in smaller. Oh, just read that. All cetacean species have a socially determined vocal tradition. These guys have language, they even have names. So, yeah, people don't want to admit that animals have language, which is it's weird. I don't like even people who aren't religious. Like I get like if you're like Catholic or whatever and you're like man was made in the image of God. And even then it's like language is just like it's I don't know. I think it's fine to admit that animals have like complex languages and not even complex, like very basic language. And the reason I say this is language is because it's socially determined. And it's not all socially determined. Like they do have like inherent like how like someone will like scream when they're like I don't know angry or like whatever or how people cry and they tend to make the same noises when they're sad. They have that, and it's taken to it obviously a higher degree. Um, like they have more inherent sounds and stuff that they express and understand that mean certain things. God, I hope that was coherent. I hope you guys get what I'm saying there. But yeah, but they every species has a socially determined vocal tradition, and it's not just like they say one thing and it only means one thing and it can't be put back together to mean something else. So they're words. They say a word and then they're able to use it in different contexts and mash it together with other words and stuff. So I'd say they have language. Um, and they have to with how they hunt and stuff. Um, and they do have names. It's like a distinct call signal, basically. Which, I mean, you could say that isn't language, but I think it is. Because, I mean, if they have, if their socially determined vocal tradition is language, then I think their name's a part of it. Um, Pods tend to be related, but sometimes groups are made of friends or associates, and these groups can last for years. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, these guys can live with their friends or their family, which is kind of unique for that. It's not insanely unique, but to have like a group entirely made of um, of individuals that aren't related is pretty rare. And to have those groups last a long time, it seems like is even rarer. So, um, yeah, it kind of shows how intelligent they are. And these groups. They found that they're made of like these guys like know each other and like kind of vouch for each other. So it's like it was like, yo, I met this dude when I was a kid living with my family pod, and now we're teaming up over here, and he knows this other guy that he knew when he was a kid, and he's gonna vouch for him. Not exactly. You guys get what I mean. I'm putting this. I'm retarded, and I'm putting it in a way retarded people can understand. So yeah, they're not literally doing that, but they they know each other before they get in a pod together. Um, these guys, mostly dolphins, engage in play. I mean, they all do, but the play of the dolphins is kind of unique. With they do bubble rings in the water, and they'll like you can look at a bubble ring. I think, or not. I think, I guess, and um like analyze it and be like it like they're looking at it, and I think they like change the way they do it and stuff, and they'll like bite it to see like where the bubbles go. Um, so yeah, and obviously they play with each other and stuff, but that's like a unique type of play that dolphins do. And play is like I'm not gonna try to describe it on my own. I'm gonna look it up. Yeah. So it's when an animal. I just looked up animal play, and the first fucking thing was animal role play. God damn, dude. Freak ass balls. I don't know. And it's also people trying to like explain it with science and shit. It's like I don't know, dude. Maybe they're just fucking bored. But yeah. It voluntarily repeats a behavior that is different from a far more serious version of that behavior, and only when they are not stressed. So it's not like a tiger pacing back and forth or whatever. Like that's not play. But like this is. And like when dogs fight, like not fight, but like, when they're like and they're like lightly biting each other and wrestling and stuff, that's play. And they say it's to get them prepared or like have them practice for hunting and stuff. I don't know. I'm not gonna try to use science to explain it, but I was gonna. And then it's talked about how whales use bubble nets to capture food, which it's they just release a bunch of air and like the krill or fish or whatever they're eating can't move through the bubble net. So, but that's not really play, but it still is kind of using the water as a tool and their air as a tool. So I put it down because I think it's pretty smart. Um, Fucking and everyone else thinks it's smart. I'm not the only one. That was retarded of me to say, but yeah. So, and then whales will like dance and stuff, but that's kind of related to like mating and like social interaction. Um, in an experiment, it was found that dolphins are capable of some level of logic. This is kind of anecdotal and it happened at SeaWorld, but I'm going to try my best to explain this experiment. So, they had these two dolphins. I've got to lock in to try to explain this one. So, they had these two dolphins, And every time the dolphins showed a behavior that they had not shown before, they would give them a fish, right? And so this went on for, I think it said like 2 weeks or whatever. And then the dolphins like ran out of behavior that they could show, and they were like getting like frustrated and like sad that they weren't getting any extra fish or whatever. And then like a couple weeks later, like a dolphin like did a backflip, because in this shows anecdotally, which means like it's not like you couldn't publish this scientifically, but I don't know. I don't think the scientific community is interested in if dolphins are, or not a large portion of them don't care. But it does show that they're intelligent. And anyway, this dolphin did a backflip after like 2 weeks of being like pissed off and depressed that he wasn't getting any extra fish, and he had never done that backflip before. And it's believed that he did it because he knew he had figured out what the people wanted him to do. And they also repeated the experiment with human volunteers, and it took about the same time for them to figure out what was going on. Like, they didn't tell the people that they wanted them to do a new thing. They were just rewarding them and stuff. So it seems like they're able to like figure things out and problem solve and stuff. Experiments have shown that dolphins understand language as opposed to just simple 1 to 2 word commands. So, I mean, if you have a dog, like sit, lie down, roll over. If you have like a really smart dog, like a border collie or something, you can teach it how to like herd sheep, away, come by, all that stuff. But those are really 1 word commands. Dolphins and whales definitely too are able to understand that, like a sentence with different words that they've never heard in a specific order before. So if you've heard the word, I'm trying to think of an example, but if you've heard frisbee, the catch, right? If a dog has heard those words before, and you say catch the frisbee, it might not. It might be able to, if it's really smart, be able to understand what you want it to do, right? If that makes sense. Like, it knows those words, it knows the meaning of those words, but if you put those words in a different order, will it understand what it means? And it's believed that dolphins do. God, I hope this is recording. I think it is. But anyway, it is believed that dolphins are at least somewhat self-aware, and self-awareness is the first step to more advanced internal processes like metacognition. And metacognition is basically where you think about your thought processes. All right. If that didn't record and you're listening to this full thing, let me know, because my headset died, but it was still showing that noise was happening. So, but anyway, yeah, it's believed that dolphins are self-aware, and that self-awareness is the first step to processes like metacognition. And then there's a bunch of other ones that I'm not going to try to explain because I don't understand them, and therefore definitely can't explain them. But yeah. And the way they figure out if something is self-conscious is, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways. Like, if you've heard the mirror test, where you hold a mirror up to something, and if it's like able to recognize itself, then it's self-conscious. But I don't know. Maybe they did that with dolphins for sure, and I guess the dolphins did recognize themselves. But apparently, there's like a bunch of different ways, and no one really knows. But God, that sounded like RFK there, and no one really knows. But yeah, my voice isn't doing too great. Like I said, breathing in that cold air all the night long with a fan on me too. Because when I went to bed, it was like 70-ish degrees maybe. So it was warm. That's a little warm for bedtime. So I had the fan on me. But fan plus cold air in the morning, dude. My throat was no Diddy, but my throat was fucked up. All right. I literally had to give myself an awkward silence after that shitty joke. But yeah, we're done talking about if they're intelligent or not. If you guys have seen Avatar 2, actually I'll wait for the end for that. But in conclusion, they're maybe self-aware, definitely. Some one of them has some kind of self-awareness. Um, they're very social. They're very good at hunting, as we'll get to with the killer whales. Um, and they're able to problem solve, and they have language. So I guess those 5 things. If you take anything out of that, that is, those are examples of why dolphins are intelligent. Yeah, I just get hit with like the sleepiness for some reason. But anyway, all right, now we're going to talk about the killer whale documentary. I know I'm not the only one that has this fear of like the open ocean, and you like look down and all around you, and it's just fucking empty, dude. It like fucking creeps me out. Like I was watching this whole documentary, like fucking fists clenched, like toes rocking back and forth, dude. I hate it, but I fucking watched it for you guys. All right, like I hate it so much. Like I, my writing became worse. I have horrible handwriting, but it got worse watching this because I was like, fucking, like, write it down. But the name means god of the underworld and champion of death. And it's like comes from like a Greek thing, I think, like Orcas de Orca or something. I don't know. They're absurdly powerful physically. We're going to talk about their intelligence and stuff later, but just for now, they're absurdly powerful. They have a bite force of 19,000 psi, which is like I think the highest on Earth. So that tells you what you need to know about these guys. Um, oh, and this is like a kind of a breakdown of all cetacean language and noises they make and stuff. So they use clicks to echolocate to like find prey or like whatever, find objects in the water. They use whistling for pod communication. It is believed they use it. Um, they use it for hunting because the whistles travel the shortest distance, so other animals can't hear it and stuff. And this isn't true of this one. The whistling one isn't true of all um, cetacean species that they use it for hunting and stuff, but it is true that they all whistle. And then pulse calls, which is the distinct dialect to communicate with their pods and their other pods. And so this is the distinct vocal, whatever the fuck, what was it? It was the socially determined, what the fuck is it? Yeah, socially determined vocal tradition. And it didn't say this in the documentary outright, but I wrote down that baby orcas babble. And that's how they know it's socially determined. Because they don't come out like speaking sentences and stuff. They have to learn the language. So they kind of babble. And orca babbling is probably like, if you hear that in the ocean, it's probably like cute to the orca parents, but to us, it's like, fucking get out of here. Because you just hear in the fucking middle of the ocean, dude. Something's coming after you. They use body language as well. And their body language, it's a little more, the stuff that we know of is a lot more like telegraphed and stuff. So they'll use like, they'll slap their tail on the top of the water, or they'll like come up but not blow air. You know what I mean? So they'll just like come out of the water and go back down, and that means something. So yeah, they're pretty smart. And AI might be used to understand and communicate with orcas. So if you remember from the John C. Lilly episode, I can't remember if it was him or someone else, but someone believed that like a computer language of some kind was going to be the thing that helped humans and cetaceans eventually be able to speak with each other and stuff. So yeah, they still believe that, but now they think they can use AI to create a language, which, I mean, of all the things AI can do, it's got to be the number one thing, right? Or like, I guess math. It can do like super complicated math and stuff, but this is probably number two. And then way at the bottom, you have like, I don't know, anime porn, right? It's like that bit or that song or whatever. The internet was created by dudes to use porn. AI, everything. If you really look at the history of the world, everything was done so that dudes could get pussy. Every war, everything was so that, yeah. And fucking now, nothing's changed, dude. Myself, who said that pussy to die for? Is that Kendrick, dude? Kendrick figured it out, dude. That one sentence can sum up every decision ever made in fucking human history. For men, at least. I don't know. I don't know what motivates women. And annoying. Just being as annoying now. I'm kidding, guys. What, guys aren't allowed to make jokes anymore? It's a joke. Calm down. No. I'm kidding. I don't know what motivates women. Truly a mystery. I think their brains might be. I think they might be motivated by more than just pussy. Which you, dude? What are you, gay? You motivated by dick? Fat? No. I didn't say. I didn't say anything. But anyway, got all that from AI. Got all those horrible, shitty, not funny at all jokes. Like I said, guys, it's gonna be ass. You know what I mean? I'm not Tim Dillon. That's why I have to talk about whales. I wish I was Tim Dillon. I wish I could fucking sum up the United States in 3 words, but no. I wish I could talk about how much I hate boomers, but I don't. My grandpa's a boomer and he's pretty chill. You know what I mean? Doesn't do the typical boomer shit. He might have sold some jobs to China, but fucking nope. Not like he fucking was the one that figured that one out, so you can't blame him too much. That he sold a couple jobs to China. And look, but Chinese people can't have jobs? Is that what you're saying? But anyway, the pods of orcas. So there's 2 types of orcas, but generally pods are made up of 10 to 50, and females live, I think it said the dudes live like 30 years max, and the females live 80 years. So they live a long ass time. And we'll see why. But they live long after they give birth, which is kind of like humans. And like, there's very few animals that do this, where they stop giving birth and they live long after. And I think a lot of whale species do this. Maybe not a lot of dolphin species. I mean, orcas are dolphins, but technically, even though they're big as hell. But yeah, and this is like, and we'll figure out why later. I'm just looking at what the second biggest dolphin is, because I think it's pilot whales. What the fuck is it? But I think dolphins might technically be whales. Are dolphins? I think it might be like all tortoises are turtles, but yeah. So dolphins are technically whales, but you guys know what I mean when I say whales. I'm talking about the big boys. But yeah, the matriarchs teach the family and feed them, which is why the females live so much longer than the males. And it also is like a sign of how smart they are. That they're able to like live super long, remember things, and pass it down to the next generation. Um, that's like it's a very good sign of intelligence, and they mourn apparently. Um, so they'll like do the orca equivalent of crying and like I guess having a funeral after one of their own dies. Definitely not the males, dude. They don't give a fuck. 30 years. Or like another dude died. It might be like bees or something because it seems like the females do most of the things. Um, but anyway, so yeah, we're gonna talk about the two types of orcas now. One is called the transient orca, and it's like what it sounds. So orcas aren't like whales. Like whales migrate a lot to follow the krill because that's their main food source. But since orcas eat fish and this is I think specifically about Pacific Coast orcas um, and stuff, but there's obviously orcas like all over the world, and this isn't true of all those orcas all over the world, but this is true specifically of like Pacific Coast. So transient, they'll move all the way from like Alaska down to like California, which is like not typical of orcas. Um, and there's like not nearly as many transient orcas. They live further out from the coast, and they mostly eat marine mammals, and they don't use echolocation. They live in smaller pods, and they don't talk as much. Um, and I guess they don't use echolocation, so the seals and stuff don't know they're coming, which might explain the other behavior that I was thinking about. So maybe this is true of all um, whales or killer whales. Fuck, dude. After talking for this long straight, it's only been 40 minutes, and I've done like what, like an hour 15, but still hurts your brain a little bit. But anyway, um, and so scientists believe that eventually transient orcas are gonna become their own species, just because the way they live and do things is so different. Which, I mean, we're kind of learning about in my science class. Science, like I'm in fucking elementary school. It's like evolution, genetics, whatever, biology class. We're learning a speciation, and there's a type of speciation called behavioral speciation, where two groups, their behavior becomes so distinct from each other that they're not really able to interact and interbreed anymore, and eventually it just leads to the creation of two separate species. Which is what scientists believe is happening with transient and the other type of orcas, which is called local orcas, which live by the coast and hunt fish, and they live in larger groups and they talk a lot more, and they use echolocation and stuff. So yeah, those are the two, I guess, behavioral types of orcas. We're almost at the end, I promise. They use complex hunting techniques such as reconnaissance and manipulating the water to catch prey. Which, I mean, most people have probably seen that before, like the video of the orca coming up and it sees the seal, and then all the orcas swim under the piece of ice the seal's on, and it like knocks it off, and they fucking chomp that motherfucker up. That's what these guys are doing. That's what that's talking about. And like they do display complex hunting behaviors when they're like catching fish and stuff. And like I said, they feed each other the fish. So yeah, they're smart. They have very wrinkly brains. I forget what it was called. It's called like gyroization or something. The word gyro was in there somewhere. But basically, what that means is that their brains have more surface area, which just means that they have a lot more neurons and spindle cells and stuff. Um, and now we're at the very end, which is complex insular cortex. They have a complex insular cortex, which is responsible for emotion, empathy, and scientists believe consciousness. Which I don't know how much I believe that. Dude. I don't know if that's fucking something that exists because of our brain. You know what I mean? I'm spiritual, not religious. Is basically what I'm saying. I don't know if consciousness is like a local thing that arises from neurons firing. It might be, but I don't know. I don't think so. But anyway, so I got a little bit of time. I'm not gonna like force it to be an hour long or whatever. 45 minutes is fine. But I did want to rate how accurate Avatar 2 was. And humpback whales, I believe, were the inspiration for the what are those guys called? That I'm gonna look it up, dude. What are the whales in Avatar called? The Tolkien, whatever. So humpback whales were the inspiration, and I did watch a little bit about humpback whales, but there's just not enough like research and stuff compared to like the killer whales, at least, for me to like do a whole section about it. But it seems decently accurate. Obviously, like the interaction between humans and whales isn't exactly the same, but like humans do interact with whales and stuff. Like the Maori like interact with whales, and obviously most groups of people's interaction with whales is hunting them. But like, yeah, uh, provided food and utensils. Maybe that's just part of the story. Maybe they fucking were killing it. Maybe everyone was killing whales, dude. And it seems like whales are too smart to be killing. Hmm. The god of the ocean. Whales possess a tapu. Okay, so maybe the whales are sacred. Maybe they're not. Maybe they were hunting them. I don't know. But that part, yeah, made up for the movie, obviously. Kind of obviously. I don't know. Whales are pretty fucking smart and they interact with people, but I gotta work on not having those silent parts, but we learned it. This is what, episode 5? Who gives a shit? But anyway, I hope you guys can't hear me like my dry ass mouth when I'm talking, but from what I understood about humpback behavior, I'll probably give it, if you take out the interaction between the human or the Navi and the whale, which I know is a big part, but still, I don't really give a shit. This is my rating, alright? You want to do your own? You want to make your own podcast about whales? You do it, dude. But anyway, I'll probably give it 7.3 in terms of accuracy, because humpback whales do kind of go to the same place. They do live in these big complex groups, and like obviously they teach each other and stuff. So it seems like they're pretty fucking smart. So that's my rating, 7.7. Who directed that shit? James Cameron. James Cameron, suck my dick, dude. Your whales aren't accurate. Not 10 out of 10, dude, in my opinion. But yeah, that's my analysis of how accurate it is, based off pretty much nothing. They didn't show the whales that much in like their natural context. But either way, just interesting. This whole thing was, to me at least. I know I'm not the best at explaining it, and this maybe wasn't the best choice for like these early episodes, but I don't know. That's it. That's all I got. Like I said, next week, if you have a preference between Eskimos and Celts, let me know. Um, yeah, I think that's all we got for this week. Uh, can't wait to see you guys next week, and next week will be better. I know I say it every week, but next week will be better. Um, just because I'm more experienced, obviously, and it's going to be a topic that's not as sciencey and stuff. So, yeah, that's the end of this episode. Have a good one.